Database lock notification. Introduction. Now, the database lock notification is formal communication that is usually issued by the clinical data management team, and it also plays a very crucial role in alignment with all stakeholders that are involved, which are ready for the clinical trial database for performing the analysis. Now, who issues the database lock notification? Now, it is typically issued by the lead data manager or clinical data manager, which is called as LDM and CDM respectively. In certain organizations, you may also have the head of department or a project manager. They may send, especially if you're dealing with large or the global studies where they have the project manager activities or a Microsoft project kind of a system which is there. So in those scenarios, usually it's the PM or the project manager who is entering all the activities for a specific study in Microsoft project. So he will be informing to all team members what all is happening in that specific study. Now, to whom this notification is sent? Now, the database lock notification is usually sent to all cross-functional teams. That includes biostatistics, statistical programmers, clinical study, medical writers, regulatory affairs, project manager, if applicable, if you are using the Microsoft project kind of a system for clinical trial study, then the quality assurance and the sponsor and the client. It is also important to inform the sponsor if it's a CRO sponsor kind of a system where the client or the CRO has to ensure that they inform the sponsor that the database lock is happening and so particular date, time and venue. Now the biostatistics team is informed usually so that they can start and proceed with the statistical analysis. Then the statistical programmers to ensure that they start finalizing the table listings and figures. Now imagine one thing, you will have a production time for the statistical programmers. Now whenever the clinical trial study is started, the programmers they and the biostatistics they will receive a dummy data, like usually 2 patients data in all the domains. Now that dummy data can be used for developing the table listings and figures programming, like at the production phase. Now once the database lock notification comes, the only changes that needs to be done is to finalize the TLFs, so that minimum time is taken after the database lock. Now, clinical study for confirmation of final data for clinical study report writing. Now, the medical writers is also important because they can use the log data for CSR writing and they can also review the data. Now, the regulatory affairs, it needs to be informed so that the submission, if it is based on the log data sets, then they should be well aware as to what all is happening. The project manager, because like I said earlier, if you are having a project system like a Microsoft project system software which you are using for tracking each and every milestones and doing all the updates, so in those scenario the project manager needs to be informed that so and so date and time and venue the database lock is happening, for so that that person can enter the tracking and the project updates. Now the quality assurance is but obvious for documentation and audit purposes. Even if it's having a internal audit or an external audit, this notification has to go to quality assurance, which you cannot ignore this specific team. Now the sponsor and client needs to also be informed so that they have the confirmation that the CRO or the team is working on it, so that they have a formal confirmation on the log status as to what is the status of that specific database. So these are all the important stakeholders here which I have listed, so that everybody knows that the database lock notification is going and it is happening, right? Now when the notification is sent, now usually the database locks notification is sent immediately after the lock is executed. Some organizations they choose to do it in the early morning, so that by the evening everybody and all the stakeholders are informed, and if there are any communication that needs to be then they can communicate during the daytime. So also the data review and the reconciliation has to be completed. So once all these pending cases or pending queries or the data review or reconciliation is completed, immediately it is sent. Then also the all the stakeholders which are involved, for example all the departments, statistics, programmers, safety, clinical, medical writers, regulatory affairs, so each and every stakeholder, their approval is important. So say for example there is one specific stakeholder who is not available or who is on leave, say for 1 week or 2 weeks, or it definitely impacts, like the database lock procedure. So somehow that person needs to be available so that the project is not delayed and everything happens smoothly. So each and every presence of stakeholder is important at the time of database lock notification, because this is a very important milestone that happens in a clinical trial database. Now it also happens when you formally sign off on data quality from all involved teams via lock readiness checklist or lock approval form. So there are certain checklist and certain forms that needs to be signed and that needs to be circulated from one department to another department, so that all departments they go through that form, they go through that checklist, whether everything is being done properly, are there any pending issues or whatever is pending or not. So once all those teams they have signed off involving all the forms and the checklist, and once the lock is executed, this notification is sent. Now also remember one thing, before doing the final database lock notification, there is a system called as pre-lock notification is often shared, warning teams to finalize open activities. So this is just like a mock drill. Say for example the database lock is supposed to happen next week, right? So in this week, 1 week before, the pre-lock notification is often shared that we have 1 week's time and we are going to do the final lock on so and so date. So that information will be sent, or a meeting will be sent, or an email is sent to everyone, so that the all the teams they are aware that whatever the open activities that are there or pending activities, they have to immediately close it by interacting with certain people. It could be the site, or it could be the external vendor, lab vendor, or the programmers, or a biostatistician, or some doctors, or some physicists. So these are all the systems which are there, the pre-lock notification. Now this helps to ensure that everything which is pending is complete, all stakeholders are ready for sign off, and everybody has given their approval. So this is what is the database lock notification. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave a feedback comment mentioning any topic that you want me to make a video. Looking forward for a positive response. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe. Leave a feedback comment. Many thanks for your support and having great connection.